I got fired because my boyfriend lied about me to HR. We worked at the same company. When I got promoted and he didn't, things got tense. Then, out of nowhere, I was called into HR for an anonymous complaint. I thought it was a mistake, until my HR showed me screenshots and messages that was supposed to be between me and him. And that was just the beginning. Let me back up. We were the office couple. You know the ones people side-eye at the printer and whisper about in the break room, like, I wonder if they hooked up at the holiday party. Spoiler, we didn't. At least not that one. Eli and I started at Marlowe Pike within 3 months of each other, both in digital marketing, both eager to climb the ladder, both working under Melissa the VP with resting CEO face and a permanent iced coffee in hand. At first, it was friendly competition, late nights building pitch decks, arguing over client retention strategies, celebrating every tiny win with post-shift martinis. Somewhere between the shared cab rides and 2 a.m. pizza orders, friendly turned flirty. And then, one night, he kissed me in the elevator, right after I'd landed my first solo client. We kept it quiet. HR technically discouraged workplace relationships, but they didn't forbid them. And honestly, it worked. We were that obnoxious couple who had his and hers matching Notion boards and lunch breaks synced like a Google Calendar prayer. For a while, I thought it was perfect. But the thing about shared ambition is, eventually, someone gets ahead. And in our case, it was me. Melissa pulled me aside after Q4 and said the words I didn't even realize I was desperate to hear. We're promoting you to associate director, effective January. I remember sitting in my car afterward, gripping the steering wheel like it was the only thing tethering me to earth. I wanted to scream, cry, call my mom. But first, I told Eli. He blinked, smiled, and said, "Wow, that's fast. Not congrats, not I'm proud of you, not you deserve it. Just that." I brushed it off, told myself he was surprised, processing. Maybe he'd had a rough day. Except the surprise never wore off. The pride never showed up. And the smile? It didn't quite reach his eyes anymore. By February, I was leading projects he used to run. By March, I had a team under me. And by April, Eli was barely speaking to me at work. At home, he still kissed me goodnight, still made me coffee. But the silence between us got longer and colder. Then came May, when HR emailed me with the subject line, "Formal complaint, immediate review required." I stared at the email like it was written in another language. A formal complaint has been submitted, alleging inappropriate workplace behavior and misconduct. We are requesting your attendance at a preliminary review meeting scheduled for May 12th at 10:30 a.m. My stomach dropped so fast it felt like my insides had forgotten how gravity works. Misconduct? I hadn't so much as raised my voice in a meeting, let alone done anything questionable. The only thing that had changed in the last few months was my promotion. I called Eli because of course I did. He was still my boyfriend, still the person I trusted. He didn't answer. When I got home that night, he was already there, sitting on the couch like nothing was wrong, watching Succession reruns with a beer in his hand. I paused in the doorway, holding my bag like a shield. "Hey," I said carefully. "HR emailed me today." He looked up, blinked. "Oh?" "They said there's been a complaint. Against me." Silence. Then he nodded just once and said, "That sucks. That sucks." Not what happened? Not, "Do you know who reported you?" Not even, "Are you okay?" Just those 2 words, thrown out like crumbs. I don't know what I expected. Maybe panic, maybe outrage on my behalf. Maybe the person who used to tell me I was unstoppable would show up again. Instead, I sat across from him on the same couch where we used to fall asleep tangled in limbs, and felt more alone than I had in years. The next morning, I met with Janine from HR. She wore that polite professional mask that said, "I don't want to be here either." She read through the complaint like it was a grocery list, creating a hostile team dynamic, favoritism in client assignments, unprofessional conduct toward a colleague in a Slack thread, which I knew had been taken out of context. I kept thinking this must be some mistake, someone twisting something, maybe even a vendetta from a bitter coworker. It couldn't be real. But then Janine said the complainant provided screenshots and internal messages. And that's when something inside me snapped. Because the messages? They were mine. Edited and cropped, but mine. Tiny sarcastic jokes I'd made. Private DMs between Eli and me. Comments only he could have seen. That's when I knew. He did this. My boyfriend. My partner. The man who used to tuck my hair behind my ear and say he couldn't wait to build a life with me. He'd weaponized my own words to sabotage me. And I still had no idea why. You know that feeling when your body knows something before your brain catches up? When I walked out of that HR meeting, my hands were shaking so badly I couldn't even swipe my badge to get out of the building. I had to press the button 3 times before the door finally clicked open. I sat in my car, just stunned. The pieces were clicking together faster than I could process. The passive-aggressive silences. The way Eli suddenly stopped joining team meetings when I was leading them. The random little comments like, "Don't let that title go to your head, babe," and "Everyone's treating you different lately, you noticing that?" He'd been gathering this, planning it. For how long? When I got home, the apartment felt foreign, like walking into a memory that belonged to someone else. The couch where we watched documentaries, the spice rack we built together on a random Sunday, the framed photo from our company's holiday party where we both looked so in love. Or maybe I just did. Eli was in the kitchen stirring pasta like he wasn't casually trying to wreck my entire career. "You reported me," I said quietly, standing by the door. His hand froze mid-stir. I saw the messages, the screenshots. It was you. He didn't deny it, didn't try to gaslight or deflect or say it was some mix-up. He just set the spoon down gently, like that was the more pressing concern, and leaned against the counter with this unreadable look on his face. "Do you know what it's like," he started, voice low, "to watch the person you love get everything you wanted while you're stuck?" My throat tightened. "So you tried to ruin me?" "I didn't ruin you," he snapped. "I filed a complaint. People do that when something's unfair." I stared at him, numb. What was unfair, Eli? That I worked harder? Stayed later? Didn't pretend to be smaller so you could feel bigger? He looked away. And that's when I realized he wanted to hurt me. Not just out of jealousy, but because, deep down, he believed I'd stolen something from him. My success felt like theft to him. The betrayal wasn't just in the complaint. It was in how little remorse he had, how justified he felt. I didn't cry. Not then. I just walked to the bedroom, grabbed a suitcase and started packing. "You're seriously leaving?" he asked, like he was the victim now. I didn't answer. But before I left, I turned to him and said something that came from somewhere deeper than anger. "You could have come with me, grown with me. But instead, you chose to compete with me. And you lost." I didn't have a plan. Just a suitcase, a charged phone, and the sudden realization that the man I loved had become a stranger I wouldn't trust with my houseplants. Lena, my best friend since forever and the human equivalent of an emotional support blanket, opened her door before I even knocked. "I brought the emergency wine," she said, lifting a bottle of Cabernet in one hand and gesturing me inside with the other. "Now tell me who I have to publicly shame." I sat down, and it all poured out. The HR meeting, the screenshots, the confrontation in the kitchen, where Eli practically admitted he did it, and still acted like I was the one who should feel bad. Lena didn't say anything for a minute. Then she just muttered, "I knew that man gave soft boy sabotage his energy." I let out a half laugh, half sob, and she handed me a glass of wine so full it was practically a coping mechanism. The next morning, the real fallout started. My inbox was flooded. Emails from clients confused about project handoffs, a vague all-staff message from HR announcing a temporary leadership transition, no mention of my name, no explanation, just silence where my voice used to be. I was told I'd be on administrative leave pending investigation, which, in corporate speak, basically means we're figuring out how to quietly make you disappear. My phone buzzed nonstop coworkers texting, trying to piece together the story. The irony? Half of them had probably assumed Eli and I broke up because I cheated or I was toxic. Because that's how this goes, right? Ambitious women get labeled as cold, demanding. Too much. I was suddenly radioactive, untouchable. A scandal people whispered about while pretending to focus on Q3 projections. And Eli? He showed up to work like nothing had happened. Business casual betrayal. Then came the real punch to the gut. Melissa, my mentor, the one who'd championed me. She called that afternoon with a voice so carefully neutral, it felt like a betrayal in itself. "I just want to say this doesn't change how I feel about your work," she said. "But we have to follow protocol." "I didn't do anything wrong," I whispered. "I know," she said, but it was the kind of, "I know that means I believe you, but I can't help you." Before she hung up, she added, "You should know, someone's been quietly circulating rumors about how you got the promotion." My stomach dropped. I didn't even have to ask who it was. Eli wasn't content with just filing the complaint. He wanted to rewrite the entire narrative, to make it seem like I'd used him, manipulated him, slept my way into the position. Never mind the years I spent proving myself. The weekends I gave up. The late nights when he was asleep, while I was still polishing decks. He was trying to erase me. But here's the thing about stories. I know how to tell mine better. He may have started this war quietly, but I wasn't going to go down quietly with him. Rumors are slippery. They don't wear name tags or come with a warning label. They just appear. A raised eyebrow during a meeting. And I heard something, but it's probably not true. A change in someone's tone when they say your name. By the end of that week, I could feel it. Like walking into a room just after someone said something awful about you and everyone's pretending they were talking about the weather. And Eli? Oh, he played the part of the supportive coworker so well. While I was on leave, he started sliding into meetings I used to lead, picking up loose ends, offering to help until things settled. It was subtle at first, then not so much. One of my former interns, Jules, a total angel, DM'd me a screenshot from Slack. Eli had posted in the general channel, "If anyone needs help on the Halstead campaign, I've got experience with that account. Happy to assist while M's away." While M's away. Like I was on vacation. Like I hadn't just been railroaded out of the job I built from scratch. I stared at the message, heart pounding, rage rising like a tide I couldn't stop. That's when I remembered something. The screenshots and the HR complaint, the ones Eli used against me, they came from my old laptop. The one we shared briefly while his was being repaired months ago. I never deleted my login, never imagined I needed to. It hit me then. He'd been saving things, watching, waiting, so I did what any woman with a Wi-Fi connection and a righteous fury would do. I made a plan. I started a new folder titled Insurance, screenshots, email timestamps, even casual messages between Eli and me that proved we were in a relationship when he filed a complaint. He never disclosed that to HR. Big no. Then I spoke with the people who still had my back. Jules, Maya from design, Danny from client relations, who once said I saved his butt in a pitch. I didn't ask them to lie. I just asked them to remember. And final step? Well, that came from Lena, because she's always 5 steps ahead of me emotionally. "You need to get ahead of the story," she said, biting into a stale blueberry muffin while scrolling through HR blogs. "Tell your version. On record. Before he buries you in his." So I did something terrifying. I scheduled a second meeting with HR. Not to plead my case. To lay it all out, facts, files, timelines. I brought a flash drive. I brought dates. I brought receipts. But most importantly, I brought the truth. And this time, I wasn't shaking. Walking back into that HR office felt different this time. The first time, I was nervous. Off balance, like someone had kicked out the floor beneath me and I was still pretending to float. But now, I had the receipts, and something better, righteous anger, mixed with proof. Janine greeted me with that same neutral expression, but I noticed the flicker of curiosity when I slid the flash drive across the table. "I'd like to submit additional context for the investigation," I said, calm but firm. "And I'd also like to officially disclose a conflict of interest that's been left out of the original complaint." Her brows lifted slightly. "Conflict?" I nodded. The complainant and I were in a relationship. For 2 years, we lived together, shared devices. I have screenshots and time-stamped communications to verify. To her credit, Janine didn't react much. She just plugged in the drive and opened the folders I'd labeled clearly. Shared laptop _ proof, withholding context, Slack _ cleared messages. I sat silently as she scrolled, watched her face subtly shift from unreadable to engaged. There was a message from Eli 3 weeks before the complaint, joking, "Hope you're ready to be the boss of me now, babe." Another from the night after my promotion, "I'm just proud to be with someone this smart, even if you make the rest of us look bad, lol." So much for hostile behavior. I even included one video clip, a screen recording from a Zoom meeting he joined late, where I praised his strategy in front of the team twice. But the one that sealed it? A Slack message he'd sent to our private thread weeks after the alleged incident, asking if I wanted to skip work the next day and have a mental health margarita day. You don't ask your hostile boss to go play hooky and drink tequila. Janine finally looked up. "You understand that this changes the framing significantly." I nodded. "I understand. And I'd like this officially on record before any decisions are made about my employment status." She closed her laptop, folding her hands carefully. "There will be a follow-up, likely with legal." "Good," I said. "I'll be ready." I left that office with my heart pounding, but for the first time in weeks it wasn't from fear. It was adrenaline, clarity, maybe even hope. But I wasn't naive. I knew how corporate worked. They wouldn't just suddenly crown me innocent and toss Eli into a pit of shame. Companies protect themselves first, so while HR investigated, I went back to Lena's, popped a Red Bull, and started phase 2. If I was going to be dragged through the mud in whispers, I was going to make damn sure someone heard me shout the truth. The thing about offices, they have ecosystems, hierarchies. Power is less about title and more about who people believe. So while HR started reviewing materials translation, buying time, I started reshaping the narrative myself. Not with gossip, with quiet, deliberate conversations. First, Maya, my ride or die from the design team. We'd spent countless nights finessing pitch decks together, stress-eating trail mix in the war room before client launches. I asked her to lunch. "I know you've heard the rumors," I said simply. She didn't deny it, just winced and said, "I wasn't sure what to believe." I slid my phone across the table with a screenshot of Eli's Slack message. "Can't believe you're my boss now. Guess I'll have to start actually submitting my timesheets, lol." Her jaw tightened. "I didn't cross any lines, Maya," I said. "And Eli, he's not the guy you think he is." Her voice was low. "You know, now that you say that, there was something weird. Last week, he was in the war room talking to Micah and slipped up. Said something like, 'She's not gonna last long anyway, just watch.' That was all I needed. One thread pulled. Word travels fast. In a place like Marlow Pike. By Friday, I'd had 2 other colleagues reach out, people who used to stay neutral, now asking quietly, "Are you okay?" And the kicker, Melissa, my mentor, my boss, the woman I thought had gone silent for self-preservation, she called me Friday afternoon. "Meet me. Off-site. 4-page M. Send location." We met at a tiny coffee shop across town, the kind with acoustic guitar music and pastries that cost $6 but taste like $3. She walked in wearing sunglasses and a scarf like she was entering the witness protection program, slid into the booth, and pulled out her phone. "Between you and me," she said, "I never bought his story. I had to stay out of it until HR finished their first pass." She glanced around, then leaned in. "But now that I've seen what you submitted, I believe you. And I'm not the only one." Apparently, Eli had started slipping, trying too hard, offering help where it wasn't wanted, making weird comments about his turn being next. And Melissa? She had her own backup. Anonymous feedback forms from staff citing his inappropriate behavior, passive-aggressive remarks, undermining others. Even a female intern who said he made her uncomfortable during late meetings. HR hadn't connected those dots yet, but now? They would. "I can't promise how fast this'll move," Melissa said. "But trust me, his days of hiding behind charm are numbered." I exhaled for the first time all week. He'd tried to isolate me, discredit me, break me down. But here's the thing about quietly competent women. We build allies while they build egos. The email landed in Eli's inbox on a Wednesday morning at 9:12 a.m. Subject: follow-up HR inquiry, mandatory attendance. I know because Maya screenshot it and sent it to me with the caption, "The walls are closing in, babe." I didn't respond, just smiled to myself like karma had finally RSVP'd. According to Jules, who was in the office that day, Eli looked like he'd just seen a ghost. Pale, twitchy, clutching his coffee like it was holy water. "Eli," Janine had written, "please be prepared to revisit previous statements and provide clarification regarding your complaint. Additional context has emerged, requiring your response. Translation: we know you lied. Get ready to squirm." Meanwhile, I was still technically on leave, sipping burnt coffee from Lena's kitchen and refreshing my inbox every 5 seconds. I wasn't expecting fireworks, just something. Validation. A sign that the system didn't always fail women who dared to speak up. Then, at 3:47 p.m., my phone buzzed. "Melissa." I answered on the first ring. "He cracked," she said without preamble. I blinked. "What do you mean?" HR confronted him with the full timeline. The messages, the relationship he didn't disclose. He tried to talk his way out, blamed stress, miscommunication, said it was all taken the wrong way. But when they showed him the inconsistencies, he caved. I sat down, hard. My knees were jelly. "He admitted it?" I asked, barely above a whisper. "Not in so many words," she said, "but enough to dismantle everything. They're reviewing disciplinary action now. And I've already requested your reinstatement." I felt the weight lift slowly. Then all at once, I didn't even realize I was crying until a tear hit the back of my hand. Melissa was still talking, her voice steady. "You didn't just protect yourself. You held the line for every woman who's been called too ambitious or too emotional at work. You set a precedent." I laughed wetly. "I didn't mean to be a martyr. I just didn't want to be erased." "You weren't," she said firmly. "You stood your ground. And you won." That night, Lena and I ordered Thai food, drank overpriced wine, and blasted a playlist titled "Women Who Don't Play Nice." I thought about how easy it would have been to back down, to let them spin the narrative, to accept exile quietly. But instead, I fought for myself, not just for my title, but for my truth. And now the man who tried to dim my light had been exposed by the very spotlight he tried to steal. And something told me he wasn't done trying. Eli was suspended the next day, pending further review, of course, because companies love their soft landings, even for men who set fire to their own credibility. But internally, everyone knew. By noon, the whispers turned into Slack messages. By 2 p.m., someone had updated our project board. Eli reassigned. Just like that, his name removed like a typo. And while I wasn't officially back yet, my badge suddenly worked again. That small click at the front door when I swiped it, it was the sound of justice, quiet, but final. But Eli? He wasn't done. That night, as I sat on Lena's couch halfway through an episode of The Bear, my phone lit up with a notification I hadn't seen in weeks. "Eli, one new message. Hey, I know you probably hate me, but you need to hear my side." I stared at the screen, my thumb hovering. Not out of curiosity, I knew his side. I lived with it. But I also knew Eli. And Eli didn't reach out unless he wanted to reframe something in his favor. I clicked it open. It wasn't just a message. It was a voice memo. Almost 4 minutes long. I hit play. His voice came through soft, like he was trying to sound broken. "I messed up, okay? I got jealous. I didn't know how to deal with you getting everything I wanted while I was stuck. Pause. I thought if I made you look bad, I'd feel better about myself. I didn't expect it to go this far. I didn't think you'd fight back like this. Like this. As if defending myself was an act of war. The last 30 seconds twisted everything. I still love you. I know you probably don't believe that, but I do. And I think a part of you still loves me too. Otherwise, why fight so hard? You wouldn't bother if I didn't matter. I nearly dropped the phone. He thought my resistance was about him. That calling him out, protecting my job, standing up for the truth, meant I still cared. No, I fought because I matter. Because my work matters. Because women like me are told every day to stay quiet, stay small, don't rock the boat. And I'd finally learned how to swim. I didn't respond, didn't engage. I saved the message, just in case HR needed more context, then blocked his number. I returned to the office the following Monday, hair freshly trimmed, nails painted in a shade called Unbothered. A little petty? Maybe. But when you've been dragged through corporate hell by your own boyfriend, you earn the right to arrive with main character energy. The moment I stepped through those glass doors, heads turned, some curious, some guilty, some impressed. I didn't avoid eye contact. I made it. With Maya at her desk near the window. With Danny by the printer, who nodded at me like I'd just scored a game-winning goal. The only person who didn't look at me? Janine. She passed me in the hallway on her way to a wellness meeting and offered a tight-lipped smile. I didn't blame her. HR walks a tightrope. But I made a mental note. Silence protects power. And I wasn't here to protect it anymore. I was here to take up space. Melissa called me into her office an hour later. No HR rep, no performance review buzzwords, just her. And a manila folder. We've officially closed the investigation, she said, setting it down. Your name is clear. There will be a statement sent company-wide by EOD. Okay, I said, breath caught halfway between relief and rage. And Eli? She looked at me evenly. He's no longer with the company. Voluntary resignation. I laughed sharp and humorless. Of course. Melissa raised a brow. His exit interview was colorful. I didn't ask for details. I didn't need them. The important part was this. He was gone. And I was still standing. Before I left her office, she added, "You've earned more than your job back. When you're ready, I want to talk about your next step here. Because you have leadership written all over you." My eyes stung for a second, but I swallowed it back. I am ready, I said. And I meant it. People looked at me differently now. Like I was both the victim and the threat. A cautionary tale wrapped in ambition. At lunch, I sat with Jules and Maya, but I could still feel eyes. I could still hear the whispers when someone thought I wasn't listening. She's the one whose boyfriend tried to take her down, right? Yes, I'm her. But I'm also the woman who didn't flinch, who built a career and saved it, who didn't let heartbreak become her whole story. That day, after work, I walked past Eli's old desk. It was already cleaned out, but someone had left a sticky note on the screen. It said, "Promote her. She earned it." I never found out who wrote it, but I didn't need to, because I already knew. This story wasn't about what Eli did to me anymore. It was about what I did next. I was back at work. My reputation was repaired. My name cleared. But my heart? It felt like a room I hadn't walked into yet. It started with small things, like instinctively reaching for my phone to text Eli about a weird client interaction, then remembering, or catching myself humming that stupid song he used to play when he cooked breakfast, then going quiet like my own mind had betrayed me. I kept thinking I was over it, that I'd won, that justice closure. But closure's a myth. What you really get is clarity, and that's so much heavier. One night, a week after his resignation, I found a photo tucked behind an old receipt in my laptop sleeve. It was from last summer, me and Eli at that rooftop bar downtown. My hair was wind-whipped, he was holding a cocktail with too much garnish, and we were both smiling. Not the fake kind. The kind that looked real. For a second, I didn't know what to do. Rip it up? Burn it? Frame it ironically? Instead, I stared at it for a long time and asked myself something I hadn't dared to ask yet. Was it all fake? The dinners, the inside jokes, the way he held my hand during horror movies even though he pretended not to be scared. And the answer? No. Some of it was real. But his love had terms, conditions. It only existed as long as I stayed in a version of myself that didn't threaten him. Once I outgrew that, he tried to shrink me back down to fit the story where he was the hero. I put the photo in a drawer. Not to keep, not to destroy, just to release.